Picture this, bro. Ireland has been sitting around for more than 10 long years waiting for a verdict that felt like it would never arrive. 10 years of rumors, theories, newspaper headlines, and people arguing on Irish Twitter like it was a national sport. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, the verdict just drops. No warm up. No sources say. No teaser leaks. Just the real courtroom, the real jury, and the real moment everyone had been refreshing their phones for. And the verdict? Ruth Lawrence is guilty. Just like that. Ireland finally gets closure in one of the strangest, most head spinning cases the country has seen this century. This whole thing felt less like a crime case and more like someone accidentally dropped a Netflix script into real life. Two missing men, a remote island on a lake, a decade of unanswered questions, and now a guilty verdict that hits harder than a winter storm in West Cork. Ireland is stunned. People are whispering. Screens are lighting up. And the whole country is collectively going, finally. Welcome to the wildest verdict day Ireland has had in years. Let's lay out the cast, simple and clean, like you and me gossiping over a late night takeaway. First up, Ruth Lawrence. She is in her mid-40s, originally from the United Kingdom, but she has been living in Ireland long enough to blend into the background like a regular neighbor. Quiet, private. The kind of person people describe as kept to herself, which is always suspicious in hindsight. She carries this mystery energy like someone who always knows more than she is saying but will pretend she doesn't. Then we have Anthony Keegan in his mid-30s from Dublin. He is one of those lads everybody knows. Friendly, a bit of a wanderer, sometimes in and out of circles, but never really alone. People cared about him. People noticed when he vanished. And then there is Eoin O'Connor, also mid-30s, also Dublin. He is the classic call me if you need anything friend. Reliable, loyal, the kind of fella who follows you into situations that probably needed more thinking and less confidence. These two lads disappear. No warning. No explanation. One day they are around, the next day nobody can find them. And then the twist. They show up on a tiny island in the middle of Lough Sheelin, wrapped in a way that screams, something happened here. Not normal. Not random. Not something you see on a casual Tuesday. And Ruth, her name starts popping up in conversations, in rumors, in questions. It becomes one of those names that refuses to go away like a pop-up ad on a dodgy website. That is our cast. One woman, two missing men, one island, and a story Ireland could not stop talking about. Here's the thing, and this is what makes the whole story hit different. Ireland does not usually get cases like this. We get storms that cancel half the country's plans. We get political drama every election season. We get the usual what is happening on the motorway today type chaos. But two men missing. Then found on a lake island. Wrapped. Placed. Left there like someone thought nature would clean up the mess. Yeah, that is rare. Rare enough that people still bring it up a decade later like it happened yesterday. Back in early 2014, Anthony and Eoin just disappeared. Gone. No phone call, no message, no back in a bit. One moment they exist in the world, the next moment it is like they stepped through a trapdoor. Families start panicking. Friends start asking around. And the guards? They start digging into timelines, phone records, last sightings, everything. And of course the rumors start. Because Ireland loves a rumor. Maybe they were hiding. Maybe they ran off. Maybe someone was after them. People had theories before the guards even finished their first shift. Then out on Lough Sheelin, a fisherman spots something that looks wrong. Not dangerous, just wrong. Something out of place in the calm water. And that tiny moment, that hold on, what is that moment, becomes the spark that lights the whole investigation. That is when the case shifts from missing persons to this is something else entirely. And trust me, this is only the beginning. So the fisherman on Lough Sheelin is out doing his usual day, minding his business, when he notices something that just doesn't look right. Not a branch, not a piece of rubbish. Something that makes you squint and say, that should not be floating there. When the guards arrive and check it out, the whole mood changes. This is not an accident. This is not a random object. This is something placed deliberately. The bodies of Anthony and Eoin are found wrapped, not tossed, not scattered, wrapped, which tells you everything you need to know. Someone took time. Someone had a plan. Someone thought this lake island was the perfect place to hide two men forever. And that becomes the mini twist that shocks the entire country. Within hours, every news outlet is breaking the story. Neighbors are talking. Cafes are buzzing. Ireland officially enters its living inside a true crime documentary era. People start asking questions. How did they get there? Who brought them? Why that island? Why wrap them? And the biggest one, what happened to them before this? And right as all of this chaos is unfolding, guess whose name quietly slips into every conversation? Ruth. Because when the guards start digging into the men's last known movements, every road and every rumor starts drifting toward her. Like she walked into the story late, but with the spotlight ready. And trust me, this little twist is nothing compared to what comes next. Now here's where the whole story takes a turn that makes you lift an eyebrow so high it leaves the country. While the guards are scrambling to piece together how two men ended up wrapped on an island, Ruth suddenly decides to leave Ireland. Just like that. No explanation. No slow fade out. She just disappears from the country like someone who heard the word investigation and remembered they left the oven on in another time zone. And people notice. Fast. Because timing is everything. And this timing? Yeah, it is not great for her. Locals start whispering. Why would she leave now? Did she know something? Is she scared? Is this a coincidence? And then the really Irish question. Come here and tell me this isn't suspicious. Still, leaving Ireland is not a crime. Acting weird is not illegal. But it definitely adds flavor to the story. So the investigators start doing the thing investigators do best. Deep dives into messages, location history, movements, phone records, the whole digital footprint buffet. And guess what? Every breadcrumb starts pointing in the same direction. It is like every piece of the puzzle has her name lightly written on the back of it. Not enough for a full accusation yet, but enough to make everyone go. Okay, something's up here. And this is only the beginning of the messy part. So now we reach the part everyone always asks about. If Ruth was on the radar way back when, why did this whole thing take more than 10 years to reach a verdict? Well, welcome to the Irish justice system, where patience is not just a virtue, it is practically a requirement. Court cases can drag themselves across years for reasons that would make your head spin. You have complicated evidence that needs specialists. You have international angles because Ruth did not stay in Ireland. You have witnesses who are hard to locate, hard to schedule, or hard to convince to show up. You have legal delays, paperwork, appeals, counter-appeals, procedural steps, and things nobody outside the legal world fully understands. And sometimes life just slows things to a crawl. So by the time the trial finally starts, most people have aged like a decade. Investigators have changed jobs. Witnesses barely remember what they had for breakfast, never mind details from 2014. And families, they have been carrying the weight the entire time. But once the courtroom doors open, Ireland pays attention again. The public interest fires right back up like it never left. Every seat is filled. Every headline is back. The island case is front and center once more. And this trial is not short. It is long, detailed, slow, methodical. The kind of trial where each day feels like a full episode on its own. But the story finally starts moving toward the verdict that everyone's been waiting for. This is the part everyone wants to know, but we keep it clean, safe, and fully YouTube friendly. After weeks and weeks of testimony, timelines, expert statements, and evidence, the jury sits with the whole chaotic puzzle. And slowly the picture starts to make sense. Here's what hits them hardest. First, Ruth's timeline did not match reality. Things she said she did at certain times could not be true when compared with phone activity, travel paths, and witness reports. Everything felt off, like trying to fit a square into a circle. Second, communication records told a very different story. Messages, calls, movements, all these digital fingerprints contradicted the version Ruth presented. It is hard to fight the data. Third, her movements around the lake area raised questions the size of road signs. Being near Lough Sheelin at particular moments did not add up with her explanations. Even small inconsistencies start to look huge when you put them side by side. Fourth, the disappearance of the two men had far too many coincidences. Too many moments that looked convenient. Too many details that lined up a little too perfectly. And fifth, there was behavior throughout the investigation that gave off straight up, I know something but I am not saying it energy. Not enough to prove guilt by itself, but definitely enough to raise eyebrows in the jury box. Piece by piece, the jury watches the puzzle assemble. Day after day, more holes appear in Ruth's story. More evidence falls into place, until eventually, they walk out, talk it through, and come back with one word, guilty. And that word feels heavier than anything said in the courtroom all year. So the moment finally arrives. The courtroom is full. Families are holding their breath. Journalists are waiting like they are about to witness the ending of the longest running series Ireland has ever seen. The clerk stands up. Everyone goes quiet, and the jury delivers the word the whole country has been waiting more than 10 years to hear. Guilty. And for a moment Ireland freezes. People stop scrolling. Conversations stop mid-sentence. Phones vibrate non-stop as the news spreads faster than you can say Lough Sheelin. It is huge. A massive moment of closure for two families who have lived with uncertainty for more than a decade. A turning point in a case that felt like it had cursed every investigator assigned to it. And the public reaction. Exactly what you would expect from Ireland. Shock, finally, after all these years. Sadness, those poor families. Relief, they got justice. Frustration, why did it take this long? And that classic Irish blend of disbelief and acceptance. Only here would a case like this happen. It is one of those verdicts that lands not just in a courtroom, but across the entire country. Everyone feels it in some way. This is the moment that transforms the island mystery from an unsolved nightmare into a closed chapter, at least legally. But trust me, the story does not end here. Now that the verdict is in, everyone immediately jumps to the next big question. What happens now? Because in Ireland, a guilty verdict is only the beginning of the next round of drama. First up, sentencing. And people are already predicting everything from a long prison term to the possibility of appeals. Irish courts take their time with sentencing, especially in cases this serious. So the families, the public, and pretty much everyone watching this case will be waiting again, hopefully not another decade. Then there is the question nobody wants to ignore. Was Ruth the only person involved? Investigators have always kept an open mind about whether others helped, knew, or played some sort of role. So even with the verdict, there might be more threads to pull. You also have the possibility of new statements, new information, or people who suddenly decide to talk because the verdict makes them feel safer. And of course, there is always the chance of an appeal. Ireland sees appeals in major cases all the time, and given how long this investigation dragged on, you can bet that legal teams are already preparing arguments. Long story short, the verdict closed the main chapter, but the book is not finished. There are legal steps ahead, emotional steps for the families, and maybe even more investigative steps depending on what comes to light. So yeah, the timeline will light up again when sentencing lands, and after that, who knows? Ireland loves a story, and this one still has pieces moving. Here's the part that hits you in the chest, because behind all the headlines and the courtroom drama, this is the truth everybody forgets. Anthony and Eoin were real men, real families, real friends. Real lives that stopped in a way nobody should ever have to imagine. The island discovery was shocking. The trial was tense. The verdict was dramatic. But none of those things erased the years their families spent waking up every day not knowing what happened. Imagine carrying that for more than a decade. Birthdays passing, anniversaries passing, empty chairs at family events, memories turning into question marks. This case became a national story, but for their families, it was never a plot. It was pain, and it lasted year after year after year. So when the verdict finally dropped, it was not celebration. It was relief mixed with sadness, mixed with exhaustion. Justice does not bring people back, but it does give families something they never had in all those long, heavy years: answers. This is the part the public scrolls past, the part the gossip skips, the part news headlines barely mention, but it is the heart of the whole thing. And here's the twist that sticks with you long after the case is closed, long after the verdict fades from the headlines, long after people stop arguing about it online. Ireland spent more than 10 years waiting for answers. A whole decade of whispers, theories, false leads, and people wondering what really happened to those two men. And in the end, the truth didn't come from a confession. It didn't come from some dramatic reveal. It didn't come from a last minute witness running into the courtroom like a movie scene. The truth came from the one place that was supposed to keep everything hidden. That tiny, quiet island on Lough Sheelin. The same island someone thought would cover the tracks, ended up exposing them. The place where the story was meant to disappear became the place where everything was discovered. It's ironic, it's haunting, and it says everything about this case. Sometimes the quietest corner in Ireland ends up shouting the loudest truth.